Hi, I'm Morgan,
And I'm Megan,
twins and host of M&M Chat.
a monthly podcast that brings together our many commonalities: motherhood, farm life, fitness, chasing our passions, and go chat.
It is our goal to create a show that is positive, real, and fun. Now let's dive into this month's episode.
All right, guys. Hello and welcome back. I can't believe we're on our third episode already. Thank you for tuning back in with us. And we are excited for today's episode, which is all about mom life. And so the title is called Baby Giggles and Dirty Diapers.
Which I feel like is just totally fitting in the season that we're living in. I mean, for example, tonight, oh my goodness, you're going to crack up, Megan. Okay, so I put Dean in his crib and he has a light switch. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll be able to see me. He's got a light switch literally right above his crib, and it's like at eye level. So when he stands up, he can reach it. And I made the mistake of the other day of reading him a story by turning on that light. And he saw me and he like ran over there and he started turning the light switch on and off. Well, then he kind of forgot about it and he hasn't really paid much attention to it. Well, tonight Tyler and I were sitting in the living room and we can see all of a sudden his light go on, off, on, off, on, off. And Tyler and I both busted out laughing. Like, I was like, Dean, night night, like, turn off the light. Come on, it's bedtime. Good night. And then it was like on, off, on, off. And Tyler and I were like, we can't help but laugh. It's just like too funny. But I might have to tape it or something.
That's so cute. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And also, so we still have kind of makeshift setups going on right now. Morgan, I just saw, I'm pretty sure it was Athena in the mirror. She like jumped down from something.
Yes, yeah. I started facing the other direction originally, but then Diesel's laying on the bed like horizontal might not be the best shot of my dog. So
Yeah, so if you guys don't know, Morgan's dog's name is Diesel, and they call him a purple heeler because he is a red and blue heeler mix. And then I have a dog named Cash, who is an Australian Shepherd. So you will be hearing lots about our dogs just because they're always on the farm with us, and they were honestly our first babies. And they are going through kind of a season for themselves too, just being a little bit jealous of our human babies. And so going into that transition, Morgan, can you tell us a little bit about Dean and how old he is? We kind of touched a little bit on just the background in the last couple episodes, but tonight we wanted to dive into a little bit about being a new mom and our birth story and all of that. So I'll let you take it away and then we can kind of chat back and forth about it.
yes. So Dean is one now. So where do I begin? So starting kind of back in the beginning. So Tyler and I got married in 2018 in October in the fall, and it was important for me that Tyler and I were married for a couple years before we started trying to have kids. So that way we had some experience of being married and kind of walking through all of the changes that come with that and kind of adulting and things. So we were married for a few years and then we decided. So,
Also, being twins, we both wanted to make sure that we could celebrate each other's bachelorette parties and be able to share a drink with and do a shot and do cheers. So we kind of made that pact that we wouldn't try for kids until we were both married, unless for some reason it was like
that's
circumstances
my
where one of us was going to be a while.
yeah, yeah. That's true. We should put that in there because that was a big factor in it as well. And just being, yeah, twins. We were pretty young. I mean, I got married at 23, so I feel like I wasn't in a big hurry. And you were right behind me. You got married the following year, so it was kind of my mom and dad, Megan and I's parents, got had us at 25, and so I always kind of thought that was a good age, halfway through your 20s, and kind of starting to get life figured out a little bit. Even though I feel like not really, but um, so I would say, yeah. So the we started talking about growing our family, and Dean was born in 2020 in the fall as well. So fall is kind of my favorite time of the year. So it's fitting that Tyler and I got married in the fall, and then Dean was born in November. And so he is one now, and uh, just yeah, just a ball of energy. He is climbing couches. He is running around. He loves the outside. And so, a little backstory about my birthing story is that I am an Ag in the Classroom coordinator for Lynn County Farm Bureau. And so, I had some classrooms. It actually was during the pandemic, so all of my classroom visits were on Zoom. And in the morning on the day that Dean was born, well, he actually wasn't born till the following day, but on Monday morning, I started having contractions. And so I told Tyler, I'm going to do my lessons from home today. They're on Zoom anyway, so I need to run up to the office and grab my supplies, and I'll come back home and do my Zooms from home, just in case. So I did like 30 Zooms that day, I believe. In between contractions, I'd be like reading a story and like hold my breath a second, and
That's
then
impressive.
yeah, Tyler came home, and I was like emailing my other teachers for the rest of the week saying like, just wanted to give you a heads up. I'm not sure what this week's going to bring, but Tyler came home, and we wanted to go check the cows. So at that point, the contractions weren't real close yet. So I was like, well, they're not like consistent. They're like once every hour, like they're not real regular. So I was like, yeah, let's go check the cows. It could be good to get my mind off of it. So we actually went to Tyson's too. Went to Tyson's, went and checked the cows. We were giving hay bales to the cows, and Dad was there. We were riding the four wheeler, taking Diesel out, and a couple times I was riding the four wheeler with Dad because he's got the double seat, and Dad goes, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yep, I'm okay. I got this." And we went back home,
Trying to
and
power through them.
yeah. I'm like, they're still not consistent. We weren't timing it or anything yet. So we went back home. Tyler and I made chicken Alfredo for dinner. And around 8 o'clock that night, I was like, I think we better start timing these. So all day I had contractions from the time I woke up till about 8 p.m. is when we decided to start timing them. And we got to the hospital around 9 o'clock. And then I had Dean on Tuesday at 12:12. So I had a pretty long labor, and
You did have a long one,
yeah,
especially since it started and it wasn't real consistent.
yeah, yep, and it was pretty intense once we got to the hospital to when he was born the next day. But he's healthy, and we're happy and got to come home. We ended up having to stay for about a week, so it was a pretty long time to stay. But yeah, then we came home, and he got to meet family and everything. So yeah. So
Yeah.
Megan, can you tell us a little bit? You are more recent in this, so I had to think back a little ways. But you're actually, you guys, this is Megan's last week of maternity leave, so she's probably feeling all the feels right now, especially now
Yes.
talking about Andrew. So can you tell us about your story?
Yeah. So there's probably some moms out there listening to right now that know exactly what we're talking about with going through pregnancy and labor and delivery during a pandemic. I feel like Morgan and I's situations have been a little bit different just because Morgan's was at the start of COVID and mine was recent. So we know a little bit more. The medical field knows a little bit more. So both of us had to experience the pandemic a little bit differently, but it's still kind of crazy, a crazy time to have a baby. And if you're listening and you also know, like, make sure you reach out and let us know your story too, because it's super interesting to hear everybody's experience and how it's similar but different. And so just wanted to throw that in there. But yes, so I am on my last week of maternity leave, which is so bittersweet. I It kind of hit me last Thursday, actually, when I went in to do parent teacher conferences. I it was just kind of like, oh man, I'm heading back here soon, and so we're definitely soaking in this last week and the cuddles, and I'm just trying to treasure it and take it all in. But Andrew is 9 weeks old this week, and I feel like my whole entire pregnancy and most of my labor and delivery was pretty routine and pretty simple. Like, I feel like there was times when people would ask me how I was doing during my pregnancy, and I almost felt guilty saying, like, "I feel great." It's like, I wouldn't even know I was pregnant unless he was kicking and stuff like that. And then with my labor, was a little bit different where I didn't have the inconsistent contractions like Morgan did. I actually woke up at 3 in the morning on Monday morning, the 3rd, and January 3rd, and I was having contractions and they were already 10 minutes apart. So I don't know if I started having some mild contractions in my sleep and it just didn't wake me up. I don't know. But when
And
I
you were
woke up, they
also
were,
past your due date, so that might have
yes,
been part of it too.
that very well could be. I was 3 days past my due date. I was supposed to be due on New Year's Eve, but he decided to wait. And so I was beyond ready when he did decide to come. I know some people go like a week or so later, but 3 days was enough. And so I had an appointment at 11 already scheduled for that day. And so I just waited at home until my appointment and I went in and she was like, okay, let's check you out. And I was like, well, I think I'm having contractions and they're pretty consistent already, like 10 minutes apart. And so my doctor said, oh, okay, well, why don't you head over to the hospital and we'll get you started and I'll meet you over there in a little bit. So that's kind of how we got started and got to the hospital. And I ended up, the whole day went really well, but we ended up having to do a C section. So that's my part of my story that's not as routine and as simple. But then the C section, the reason we had to do that was Andrew's umbilical cord kept getting pinched when I would push. And so she's decided just let's do a C section because I don't like that his heart rate is dropping. And we tried a few things before we did the C section, but it just wasn't working. And so we went in for the C section, but this is where the pandemic comes into play. So Kyle, my husband, was in the room with me the entire day. And as I guess I should mention, the reason why the pandemic comes into play is because I was actually positive for COVID when I went into the hospital. And I had mild cold symptoms like 2 weeks prior to going into delivery. And so I figured I was in the clear. But I guess I was still positive when they tested me. And so they did not let Kyle come into the C section room, which we were both very upset about. But we knew that it was just, we just wanted to be like low stress and we wanted Andrew to be healthy and safe. So we went with the protocols that they were asking us to do. And so when I went into the C-section room, Andrew was born and he was all good and healthy and I was good. And so they showed Andrew to me and then they showed him to Kyle. And we were in the hospital, kind of like Morgan, most of the week from Monday through Thursday. And then we got to go home. But we had to stay in the room the entire time. Since we were COVID patients, we were isolated. We could not go to the hallway. We couldn't go, Kyle could not go get food. He couldn't leave and come back. We both had to stay in this room. And then Andrew, thankfully, was healthy and didn't need to have any kind of extra um, like support from the nursing staff. So he got to stay in our room as well. If he would have had to go to the NICU for any reason, I would not have been able to go in there, obviously for the safety of the other babies, but that would have been really hard. So thankfully, he was good to go and could stay in our room. That way I could work on like breastfeeding and all of that too. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell. And if you guys have questions about either one of our stories, you can always reach out to us and let us know what those questions are. But I always kind of like to hear what people's stories are just because you never know what to expect. And people say you can't really plan for what's going to happen during labor and delivery because you never know. And so it's good to be prepared, but you never know.
Yes, yes, definitely. I feel like that is the truth. And everyone, even though it seems like our bodies all like go through the same process of like labor, it's all completely a different story. It's like everyone has like no story I've heard has been alike. Like everyone
No.
has different circumstances or situations or the environment or things like that. And so it's fascinating uh, how different they can be, because a lot of times, like, you prepare 9 months, like you get your nursery ready, you get everything, your diaper bag, your hospital bag, you have everything set to go. But there's not really a great way to prepare for labor or postpartum, because one, I mean, people can try to tell you what to expect, but even Megan and I have like passed notes back and forth about like what our bodies went through and things like that. And even us as being twins and is very different.
Oh, yeah.
Even healing and
Very
like
different.
with you with your C-section, like trying to regain the strength in your abs and your core and stuff like that. So it's just like very different, even healing processes. So it's hard to prepare for that mentally and physically, of like how to know what to expect.
Yeah, definitely. And a little bit of a funny story. Have you seen on Netflix the movie or the TV show it's a limited series? I think there will only be one series, but it's called Inventing Anna. Have you seen that?
I haven't, no.
So it's kind of a funny series. If listeners, if you haven't seen it, you should check it out. But this reporter, she's a journalist. She's going through the whole season trying to write this story to kind of redo her reputation. Well, she's also pregnant, and she's trying to get the story out before she has her baby, because she doesn't want her baby growing up knowing her past reputation, and she wants to reinvent her reputation. And so one of the quotes that she always says throughout the movie to her husband is, "I'm not special. People squat and have babies in fields. I'm not special." And so when she's in the delivery room, her husband's like, "Come on, babe, you got this." And she's like starting to faint, kind of like it's really hard. And she's like struggling. And she's like, "I'm tired. The baby can come another day." And her husband goes, "You're not special. Babies moms squat in fields all the time. Push this baby out." And the nurse and the doctor's looking at him like, "That's not what you say to your wife. Like, you're supposed to be supporting her." And she's screaming and she's like, "I'm not special. Babies are born in fields all the time." Or cars or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So check out that series on Netflix. A little plug.
That's funny. Well, you guys, we're trying to keep our episodes around 30 minutes, which I think we mentioned in the last episode. And so we want to respect your time. So let's kind of switch gears here and talk about uh, schedules. And with being a new mom, like how, especially now, Megan, this is like a good time to talk about this because you're heading back to work. So how will your schedule change, or how are you going to prepare for that?
Yeah, so that's a good question because we'll see how the first week back goes. But one thing that Morgan and I both have really worked on in the last couple of years is our morning routine. And there is actually a lot of research out there that just there's a lot of books and a lot of different podcasts that talks about creating a morning routine. And so we've dived into that a little bit. But basically, what my morning routine looked like before having Andrew was that I would wake up probably around 4:30, 5 o'clock, and I would go downstairs and I mixed up my pre-workout drink, and then I would sit down and do my devotional, write 3 gratitudes and 3 affirmations. I would do a devotional and pray and kind of journal, start writing down my nutrition for the day, because meal prep is a huge part of just my routine. And so that's kind of how I would start my day, quiet time. I always like to start with a little bit of prayer and just talking with God. And then I would go into my workout, and that would also be a good kind of segue because my pre-workout energize would start getting me pumped up for my workout. And so then I do a 30, 45-minute workout. In the summer times, we tend to try to do longer workouts, but while we have busy schedules, especially for me as a teacher during the school year, 30 minutes, 40 minutes is a good amount of time for a workout. And then I go into the kitchen and I make my lunch and my husband's lunch and then get ready for the day. Well, now with having Andrew, I'll have to kind of adjust that a little bit. And some days it might look different than other days depending on when he wakes up. And I know Morgan can attest to this a little bit more than I can right now. But my goal is still to kind of keep that same schedule as best as I can. So what I'm kind of thinking, and we'll see how it goes, and listeners, you can probably give me a little bit of pep talk or cheering or just maybe even your own experience and be like, huh, she's crazy because that's probably not going to work. But I'm hoping that I can kind of maybe feed Andrew first around, he's been waking up around anywhere between 4 and 6. So I'm kind of hoping maybe I can feed him, maybe put him back in his bassinet or in his crib and let him sleep for maybe another hour or two before he's ready to go. And then I can go get all of my stuff done that I just mentioned. And then before I'm getting ready to head out the door, maybe feed him a little bit more, get him ready to go dressed, and then take him to daycare. So that's kind of what my hope is. And then go to work, and then start the evening routine. But I do feel like the morning is a great time to get your workout in just because then you don't have any way or you don't have any excuses getting in your way, I should say, that you would
Well,
maybe have if you waited. And I know some people are definitely afternoon exercisers. And if that works for them, I think that's great. You just have to find what works for you so you're not going to let those excuses get in the way. But Morgan, what were you going to say?
oh, I was just going to add, and especially as a new mom, like I remember it was kind of tough for me going back to work and coming home, and usually they're a little bit more tired at night. They have had a long day, like busy day too. And so the evenings, I felt like we did dinner, bath time, and bedtime. So I would be exhausted after like all of that and bedtime. And I wouldn't want to do my walkout when he was awake because I hadn't seen him all day. So I remember being like, well, I want to get my walkout done in the morning and have my morning routine pretty consistent because when I get home, I want to be uh, with Dean playing, going outside, checking the cows, doing chores, doing other things as a family versus like having to, which, like you said, some people love the afternoon walkout or they love walking out after the kids go to bed and whatever works for your family. But that's kind of just what I found for me is I wanted to be consistent in the morning and then spend as much time with the family after work.
And I think that word that you mentioned, consistency, I think that's key. Just finding a consistent schedule, and it's going to take practice at first. Like, I'm not naive. I know it's going to not be perfect. And I think sometimes people wonder, like, well, how do people get it all done if they want to get their exercise routine in, or if they still want to pack their lunch and have meal prepped meals? I think it's starting off and it's messy at first, but once you get into that routine, it starts to become more smooth and just become a natural rhythm. And of course, there's still days, even after it's become a natural rhythm, that it's going to not go according to plan. But I think if you expect that, then it's not like life altering or like devastating, like, oh my gosh, my whole routine's off. Like, if you expect it, you can be more flexible. And especially as a mom, we know you have to be flexible. But consistency works and it actually builds that momentum.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And like having grace with yourself that not everything is going to get done in that day. Like you might have a to-do list, but it's okay if not everything gets crossed off. Like for example, like this weekend, we're kind of in this transition period where Dean sometimes takes one nap and sometimes he takes two naps. So on the weekend, like during that nap, I'm like, okay, to-do list, like let's check things off, let's get as much done as we can. And so sometimes like this weekend I really wanted to meal prep because I knew it was going to take me a little bit longer. And so I meal prepped when he was napping versus vacuuming. And so
Yes.
this weekend vacuuming didn't get done, but laundry got done. I did the trashes and the litter boxes. Like I did all of the other cleaning things, but laundry or vacuuming didn't get crossed off the list. And that's okay. Like I'll vacuum this one night this week or this weekend, something like that. And so it's kind of like also too like some people really really enjoy a clean house. Maybe that is higher up on the to-do list. Like I know for mom when you're listening to this like vacuuming would have probably been checked off the list before the meal prepping. And that's okay because that's like in your priority like hierarchy of what makes you feel good. And for
Mhm.
me, like last week, I ended up doing meal prep after Dean went to bed, and I did something more simple because I knew I was tired, and it was after he went to bed. So I did a simple and easy meal prep that week. So it's just
Yeah.
also like ebbs and flows. Like I feel like being a mom has taught me to go with the flow more because you and I, Megan, like we are very like list orientated people. We
Yes,
have a plan and we want to stick to that plan and we don't want to get railed off of that plan. I need to figure out what my
exactly.
Enneagram is because everyone always talks about that. And like, I feel
Yeah,
like
maybe we should figure that out and see if we're the same or different, and
yeah,
then maybe do an episode on that.
yeah. Because I feel like motherhood has really taught me to go with the flow and like be okay with being content and not having everything done. And there's always tomorrow. And sometimes Tyler will remind me at night, you've been go, go, go all day. It's okay to just sit here. And sometimes I need that
Yeah.
reminder.
And it's okay to stop and start something if you're like need to go and change the baby's diaper. If I'm in the middle of the workout, it might take if it's a 30-minute workout, it might take 45 minutes if you have to stop in between and go um, do something that's part of mom life or part of being a wife or part of owning a home or part of your job or you get a phone call or anything. If it takes you longer, that's okay. Like the goal is not to have it be perfect. And like Morgan said, it doesn't have to all be done every single day. And I'm starting to realize that too. And actually, when a lot of people say you'll miss the mess when they're out of your house, I know Andrew's only 9 weeks old, but I was looking around and at first the extra stuff kind of gave me anxiety, like having extra stuff sit around. Like I have my breast pump, I have bottles, I have passies, I have blankets, I have toys. And at first it kind of gave me a little bit of anxiety because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm used to having it pretty like clutter free. But then now that I've become a little bit more patient, I know I still have work to do, but it's starting to I'm looking around and I'm like, this looks like I'm living. Like it looks like life. It looks like we have a family. Like it looks like the season we're in right now. I want it to look like that season. I don't want it to look like anything else right now because that's the season that I'm in. And so before I had Andrew, when people came over and brought their kids, I didn't have kid stuff, and that's okay because that's the season that I was in, and I just was proud. I told my friends like, "Yeah, my house isn't baby proofed yet." Well, now it's going to have to be. And so that's the season, and we can enjoy that either season, whichever one we're in.
Yes, yeah, definitely. I feel like that too, and like it's just crazy to think like you're talking about like the bottles and like I recently just boxed up all of Dean's bottles, so like it goes so fast, and I feel like I actually like this last week when Dean was sick, he was cuddling with me, and I don't get very many cuddles these days because he's just on the move. And even though like my heart was breaking because my little boy didn't feel good, I was like soaking in those cuddles. I'm like,
Oh,
he just
yeah.
like was laying his head on me, and we were just like snuggling, and I'm just like soaking that all in. And I feel like um, when we're thinking about when we're thinking about like all of the things that we have to do too, I was listening to another podcast the other day about motherhood, and it was the Risen Motherhood podcast. I really highly recommend that. Megan and I have both read the book, and that's just a
That's a
great,
great podcast.
great Christian podcast, and it really focuses on the gospel. But they were saying, like, especially like how busy we are, whether you work full time, part time, or stay at home mom, like our days are full. And so get the kids involved with the activities that you have to do on your to do list. So, like, for example, this weekend when I was doing laundry, Dean loves to help me with laundry. I have a basket, I take it out of the washer, I put the clothes in the basket, and then Dean takes like the socks and puts them in the dryer. And I'll hand him a dryer sheet and he'll put that in the dryer. So it might take me even a little bit longer to have him help me, but then we're like interacting versus him like pulling on my sweatshirt and saying mom 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 mom, like instead of having him be like just a second, mom's doing laundry. No, like let's get you involved and help me because I need to get this done, and you want my attention, so like let's do this together as a family. So I really think we can get our kids involved too, and then that will help, like you said, with the workouts it actually makes it even probably more of a walkout because you're chasing kids
Yeah.
around. So looking at the positives and getting them involved.
Yeah. I love that because especially it teaches independence too and good work ethic. So you can't go wrong with involving the kids in just what activities you're already doing anyways. So how can we look at our schedules and our passions and try to still keep in, even though we are moms and our passion is our family and our kids, and our work, how can we keep our like hobby passions that might eventually become even more than hobbies in the future? Who knows? And so, how can we keep those and keep working at them, even though we're in this beautiful, crazy, messy season?
Yeah. I think we had a pretty good example of this growing up. Like, dad was always working with the farm animals and showing us that he wanted to keep pursuing that. And mom, I was just talking to mom the other day because I said, Mom, you used to do scrapbooks and like crocheted and stuff like that. And she's like, Well, when you guys were like 7 and playing, while you were sitting on the floor playing, I would be working on my scrapbook or something like that. She's like, that way I was like finishing something I was working on, but I was in the same room with you, able to talk with you, see what you were doing. And so I feel like it's okay to do it alongside them and to bring them into what you're doing and get them excited about it too. Because I remember we started a scrapbook because mom was scrapbooking.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and we wanted to go down and check the cows because dad was going to go check them. And so I feel like when I go out to the farm and we do flowers or we check the cows, like Dean gets so excited. So instead of like sometimes it's a lot easier to get my workout done before Dean gets up. And sometimes if I'm making wedding bouquets, to do that after Dean goes to bed. Like sometimes I do have to burn the candle in the morning and at night to get our our things done and our passions outside of our family and home. Like with the flowers and the cows and our podcast. Like right now, it's 9 o'clock, both of the boys are sleeping. So sometimes you do have to do it after they go to bed. But I also think sometimes if you can bring them with you, then you should try to do that too so they can see by example as well.
Yeah, and it shows the just shows the kids too that their parents can have passions and have hobbies, and it gives them even a little bit more of a relationship, I feel like, with their parents because they know more about them. Like they know what they like and they know what interests they have. And so that's cool to see as you're growing up what kind of interests your parents do have. And like you said, sometimes you have to do it in the morning or at night after the kids are already in bed, or maybe they haven't woken up yet. Maybe they're napping. But I also believe in asking for help. Now, this is something that we have had to kind of walk on, and I'm just brand new at walking on it because of the mom guilt for sure. Like, we don't want to ask for help. We think that we are rock stars and superstars, which we are. Moms are both of those, but it's okay to ask for help because we do have the support, and if you have people in your life that are willing to be there for you, then definitely utilize that. Like for example, both of our moms and mother-in-laws and dads and father-in-laws, friends, all of them are like, anytime you need us, we'll be glad to babysit. And sometimes they're actually asking just on a random occasion, like, oh, hey, if you need to go to the grocery store, I'll take Andrew, I'll take Dean, just because they love to see their grandkids too. And so if Morgan is working on planting her garden in the spring, like last year, she asked me to watch Dean for one of the days, and she got her and Tyler were able to get a bunch done. And then that way, the next day, she was able to spend it with Dean. So we kind of work that out balance wise. And having that support from your family and friends is just huge because they say raising kids is not just by yourself, it's with a community. So I truly am starting to see that more and more and realize that I want my kids to have a relationship with their grandparents and I want them to know their aunts and uncles. And so to me, that's important too, that they get that time with them.
Yeah, 100%. And that term mom guilt, we hear that a lot these days. And it is literally a real thing. Like I
It
feel
is.
feel like that mom guilt is definitely like sometimes we can get in our heads about things and we can question ourselves and question like I want to do it all on my own, like I don't want to have to ask for help and things like that like you were saying, but I also feel like God, like you said, it takes a village, and I feel like God, like Jesus didn't do his missions alone. Like he went out with other people, and I feel like God wants us to ask for help and be humble ourselves to be able to ask for help and not be prideful and not have to do it all ourselves. And so I think this season I feel like God's trying to teach me that because I definitely um, like to be independent, and sometimes it's hard for me to ask for help. But I'm learning, like you said, and I know I couldn't do the flowers, have a full time job, do the podcast. Like we couldn't do all of this unless we had support. Like it would be impossible without our supportive family and friends. And so definitely. Uh, Credit that to being able to ask for help.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's about all we have time for tonight on our third episode. So thank you guys for tuning in. And if you liked this episode, we would love it if you shared it, if you followed us on YouTube, or if you subscribed on any podcast app. And let us know what you think. Give us a rating or review. I think that's how it works. So more people can see our podcast. And yeah, so we hope you all have a great week.
So, going forward, we will be releasing one episode a month on the second Wednesday. So, we're launching this on our birthday on March 9th. So, every month we'll be releasing one more new episode, unless we figure out that we love it and we want to release more. But for now, once a month.
Yes. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.